What's going on, everybody? SeanPierceJohnson here. Welcome to this week's episode of Stompbox Saturday. Hope you guys all had a great week. I know I did, and I'm very excited to be showing you guys the Neuron Gain Intelligence from Neunaber Audio. Now, if you've been following me for any length of time within the last 5 years, you know that I used to work with these guys. I was their artist relations rep back a few years ago, and I had a lot of fun getting to know Brian and getting to know what made him tick, and also being able to check out the kind of stuff that he was making. It was around the time that the Immerse was coming out, so I was really getting deep into that world. But I always remember that Brian has a history in DSP design that goes further than the time-based effects and modulation effects world. Back in the early part of his career, Brian, while working for St. Louis Music, worked on a modeling amplifier for Crate. He actually had one of these original Crate modeling amplifiers in the Neunaber offices, and it was always a cool little piece of history. And from time to time, we would talk, and he would voice his desires to bring back this idea of digital drive, digital overdrive. And last year at the NAMM show with the XD1, we saw the beginning stages of that concept, the idea of getting all of your drive purely from the ones and zeros of DSP technology. And now that evolution has led us to Neuron, a full-on preamp overdrive distortion pedal that can do so much more. And really, the idea of gain intelligence, it's probably one of the most fitting things that I've ever seen placed on a pedal. So enough yakking. Let's go ahead, put the pedal up on the screen, take a look at the controls, and go over some of the features right out of the gate. One of the big things that I've always loved about the Neunaber designs is that they offer so much simplicity for something that is really quite a complex and sophisticated design. So let's check it out. Controls, we have a level control. We have 3 bands of EQ with low, mid, and high. We have a gain control, which can take us from just a nice clean gain to full-on high gain girth. And then we have a built-in compression knob, which is a 1-knob compressor that can take you from light compression to heavy squash. And the brilliant part about this is that this really starts the whole gain intelligence thing. The gain has this wide control, there's a built-in compressor, and I really feel like having that built-in compressor kind of helps bridge that gap for some of us that may be a little bit more analog inclined and are maybe a little afraid of digital things. It helps get across that feel that we remember from our big ol' amplifiers and even our analog pedals. Now, that's just what they do without any alternative features. Because of the digital design, we have access to more controls. So by pressing and holding down on the engage foot switch, it allows you to access the alternate features. So let's take a look at the alternate features. On the low, the mid, and the high, we can now control the tightness of the low end. We have a tilt control, which is a tilting EQ, which essentially allows you to tailor the overall EQ points so that you can take one preset that you've created on Neuron and apply it to multiple different usages. And then we have presence on the high end, giving us that little bit of cut and like nice little bit of chime. On the gain knob, we have an access to a built-in noise gate, which when it comes to the high gain and some of the distorted sounds comes in very, very handy. On the compression knob, we have the ability to access a built-in speaker simulator, which they set to basically sound like the Iconoclast speaker simulator with all knobs just straight up at noon. I am going to show you some of the most likely ways that you are going to be using Neuron and how you can get the most out of it. I have put timestamps in the description below because I anticipate this being quite a long video. So if you would like to jump to any of those portions of this video and focus on one of those, you are more than welcome to do so. And I should just say before you go to those, please do click that subscribe button, turn on some notifications, and consider also clicking up here and becoming a supporter on Patreon. Just want to get that out of the way. So let's go ahead and dive into what this thing is as a preamp, as you heard it at the top of the video, plugged into the Pedal Baby 100. Preamp pedals seem to be all the rage these days because we need options that are going to give us a wide variety, but we also need to have them be easy to use. And Neuron is probably the epitome of that. You can access multiple presets via MIDI, yes, because this thing has MIDI in and MIDI out, and you can go all crazy to your heart's content. But if you're someone like me who just needs a simple clean and dirty preset in front of a fairly neutral sounding power amp, you can access those via the preset switch here on the left-hand side. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's take this normal sort of neutral sounding power amp from the Pedal Baby 100 and craft ourselves a bit of a clean tone that will be a little bit more sparkly, maybe something a little bit in the Fendery American style with some scoop mid-range, something that'll work well for a player like me that does a lot of nice strummed chords but also arpeggiated patterns. This is also where the tilt function is going to come in very handy. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, when we turn on the pedal with all knobs at noon, we hear this. It's not exactly what we want, obviously. So we're going to go ahead and change some things up. I'm going to turn the gain and the compression all the way down. Now, I'm also going to go into the alternate features by pressing and holding on the engage switch. And I'm going to put the presence and the tight at noon. So we have a fairly neutral thing right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this tilt control to find the most neutral point of these EQ curves. And we'll use the neck pickup. So we want something kind of clean. What I'm going to do is I'm going to strum a chord, hit the engage, and start sweeping that tilt control so that we find something that gets us more in line with where we feel the EQ points should be in this context. I think having it just left of 12 o'clock is going to do just fine. Now we can tweak. That's pretty impressive, but I want the low end to feel a little bit more full. Now we had the tight control at 12 o'clock. How are we going to change that? Press and hold on the engaged foot switch to access the alternate control. And I'm going to dial that back to 9 o'clock. Now just for the sake of making sure that we have the same sound, I'm going to turn the lows back to where we originally had it. That's sounding pretty good. Maybe let's add a little bit more sparkle to that by adding in some presence. And that's sounding pretty good. Maybe we'll give it just a little bit more gain or a little extra vibe. And that's starting to feel pretty good, and I'm really enjoying the sound of that. But I like compression on my clean tone. Just a little bit to get us started. We'll turn up the compression knob to about 9 o'clock. Now, let's take a listen to how we started with the pedal baby by itself. Wow, that's quite a transformation. Let's go ahead and add on some reverb from the Native Audio Ghost Ridge and some echo from the TC Flashback 2. I like that. I like that a lot. So now that we've found the sound that we want, how do we save it as a preset? A very simple process, thankfully. Press and hold down on the preset foot switch for a couple seconds, and then you'll see the preset light go white, and it's saved. And then you can toggle between the preset and whatever the knobs are set to. So let's go ahead. Let's make something a little gainy. That gets us started. And it's that simple. For someone like me, if I'm going to be putting this on a pedal board and I want to use this as the bulk of my clean and dirty and switch between the two, that's a very easy thing to do. And I can easily get through a gig on those two sounds. Couple that with some reverb and delay, some ambient effects. I've got compression taken care of, so I don't need to worry about throwing a compressor pedal on there unless I absolutely want another one. Put a tuner on there and I'm good to go, which is pretty remarkable to say the least. So now that I have that preset that I like and it's on my pedal board, hypothetically speaking, of course, because it's here on the stomping block, now I want to take my main pedal board and record with it. But maybe when I engage the speaker simulator, that's going to change up the sound that I've already created for use with the power amp. That's where the tilt control comes in handy. So let's go ahead and plug directly into my interface, my PreSonus Studio 192, and use the tilt control to get back the vibe of that preset we created for use with a power amp. Now that I'm plugged in direct, let's engage that speaker simulator. Go ahead, press and hold down on the engage foot switch and turn the knob till the engage LED turns blue, which I like that color, I think. I'm in a blue room, duh. So let's go ahead and listen to our bypass signal. Now let's bring in our clean preset. Now, from what I remember, this seems to have lost some of the chime that we had going into the power amp, but we don't want to change all of what we loved about it because we are going to go back to that power amp in a little bit. That's where the tilt control comes in handy. Now, if you recall, we had it set right about here when we were plugged into the power amp. Let's go ahead and press and hold on the gauge and turn it, let's say, to about 2 o'clock. Now let's play some stuff. there we go. And that's pretty much what I want out of it. And we can then even go back and forth between that and what is reflected on the knobs. So I'll go ahead, click off, and let's set ourselves a nice little gritty, dirty tone here. And there you go. You've taken those sounds that you've created and you already like from one situation to the other without having to do any sort of extreme changes to those presets. Just use that tilt control and you're back in the game and you're ready to roll. So that's how handy that tilt feature is. It takes a lot of the worry out of tone shaping so that you're not constantly having to change everything. So that was the Neuron plugged into a power amp and plugged in DAW. And I think plugged in DAW, this is a very good sounding speaker simulator. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Iconoclast speaker simulator doesn't use impulse responses, so this is not an impulse response loader. So just so you guys know, if you want to use impulse responses, turn off the speaker simulator here and use something else. I have the Nux Solid Studio that I like a lot, so I might end up using that and experimenting with that. But that is for another show and another time. But some of you guys are going to want to use this in front of an amplifier that you know and love, and I know and love my orange Rockerverb 100. So let's go ahead and check out a couple tones in front of that amplifier on the clean channel and the dirty channel and explore a little bit about using the Neuron as a normal drive pedal. Okay, now we're plugged into the front end of the Rockerverb, and I want to show you guys a couple different settings that I've really come to like in front of this amplifier. First and foremost, in front of the clean channel. This is probably one of the sneakiest things about this pedal, and that's that it's probably one of the best compressor pedals I've ever used in front of an amplifier. I'll show you what I mean. First and foremost, let's get that neutral sound with the tilt control, and I'm actually going to end up dialing it all the way back. I find that turning it all the way back with the Rockerverb ends up being more in tune with what the EQ points on this particular amp are. Now, what's really cool is because we have the gain, the compression, and the level, this is 3 different gain stages that we can use to achieve something a little bit cleaner than this. My high output humbucker is clipping the front end, but we want something clean. We want it to stay that way. So going from that, let's turn this on and start dialing in some of that compression. Starting to do its job a little bit. Very nice. A little bit less compression. Now we can use the gain to make up for what we lost by turning down the volume. It's kind of like you can look at it this way. Compressing the gain and then the master volume. That's essentially what it is. Now, the other thing that happens when you use EQ is that certain frequencies start to distort. By scooping out some of that mid-range, we can further clean up. Going back to our original. And now that we've lost some of that grittiness because of the output of the pedal from taking out the mid-range, then we can get that further clean sound. Now you can use the low and high EQ to your heart's content to shape the tone however you want. Add on a little bit of shine from the highs and the presence. And we're gonna go ahead and boom the lows a little bit. Now let's go to the middle position, turn on some reverb, and let's see where we are there. Here's a nice little medium gain overdrive with a hefty dose of compression that gets you sort of the Dumbler quality. Let's take a little lead and check that out. Let's go ahead now and find ourselves a high gain distortion sound. Now, I'm gonna go quiet really quick and turn on just the mic for the guitar amplifier. You can hear some of that noise. It's a normal thing with gain. Trust me, it's not exclusive to the Neuron. If you think it is, check yourself. So, how are we gonna manage that and how are we gonna get rid of that when we really get down to the riffing? The built-in gate is going to be our friend. Let's go ahead and engage. You can hear it all the way down. It's not quite there, but once we hit about 9 o'clock on the dial, then we start hearing it come into play. Now let's turn up the gain a little bit, halfway. Let's see where we go. And just like that, it's taking care of it for us. Three o'clock. Now let's add in a little bit of compression to help even things out and give us just a little bit of give. And there we go. And that gate comes in quite quick. And if we really want more of it, we can go ahead and go to the alt, turn it up more to about 12 o'clock. Now we're plugged into the dirty channel, and we're going to use the Neuron sort of as a preamp, EQ, and compressor for the dirty channel. This is what we start out with, and I like it. It's nice and full, but we want something just a little bit more articulate, a little tighter. Let's go ahead and engage that. Now the settings that you see on the low, mid, and high do reflect it, but I've tightened up the low end to where it's about at noon. The tilt is turned all the way down, and the presence is actually at about 3 o'clock. Now we got a hefty dose of compression, a little bit of gain, and the gate is engaged. I'm gonna go ahead, turn it up just a little bit more. There we go. And we've got some output going on for us. So let's go ahead, check out our original. Turn on the Neuron. It's like my orange became a Friedman now. And there you have it, everybody. That is the Neuron Gain Intelligence from Neunaber Audio. Now, in terms of everything that we've looked at so far this year, this thing is getting a spot in the top 5. I am finding so many different uses for it, and I am enjoying the sounds that I'm creating. It's really breaking down that analog digital barrier, and it's making digital drive a thing that not only would you want to use, but something that you're actually going to enjoy using. Using as a direct recording solution, fantastic. Using it as a tone shaper and a preamp into your amplifier, or as the foundation for something that you can use into a power amp at a gig for backlining, fantastic. The access of 2 different presets at the beginning of it without using MIDI means that you've essentially got a channel switching pedal, which is pretty incredible. We didn't even get into the MIDI, and there is so much that you can access via the MIDI that it is insane. I feel like if I say any more, I'm just gonna be rambling and saying the same things over again. So I'll just say, fantastic job, Brian and the crew at Neunaber. This is a fantastic pedal, and I can't wait to use it more and show some more of what this thing can do in the near future. But for the time being, I want to know what you guys thought of the Neuron Gain Intelligence. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And when you see it, please do click the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and do consider becoming a supporter on Patreon so I can keep making demos of awesome gear for you guys. As always, the fact that you've chosen to spend part of your Saturday with me means a lot. Thank you so much for your support. And until next week, my friends, I'm SeanPierceJohnson, wishing you all out there great tone and happy stomping. Cheers, everybody.